We are live, bro.
We are?
We
Wait.
are.
Let me take my pulse. Let me take my pulse. Yes, I'm alive.
What's up, Charles?
Nothing much, brother. Nothing much. How are you, man?
Doing well, getting my stuff all set up here as usual. Happy Friday, everybody. Aloha Friday.
Throwing everybody off, eh?
Oh, Terrence, Ale, what's happening, my buddy? I hope you got your confusion taken care of. I guess you guys, good chance you guys gonna open on the 22nd, but anyway.
Yeah.
So how was your day, Charlie?
Well, my day started off with, well, as you know, that I'm a island manager for a large security firm here in the state. I handle Kauai. I just had some minor glitches here and there, but one thing led into another, which occupied most of my time. But other than that, just monitoring the situations, getting a pulse to see what things are like, because after last night's guests, and you're talking about what is needed. We know what is needed, but the best way I can explain it is, like when you plug in your extension cord into a socket, right? That split moment in time when contact is made, there's a little arc, and that's what sometimes is dangerous. It catches on fire. That's where we're at. You have testing that's done at the airport, and that little arc happens when that person leaves the airport to go wherever they're going to go and wait for the results, right? That little arc is when there's that missing space in time, because that person, if he comes back negative, fine, perfect. In fact, I was going to ask a question. If he's subjected to a test, right? If he's subjected to a test because he had a fever when he came in, and his test comes back negative, then that person is not subjected to a 14-day quarantine. He is not, because he got one test to show that he's not carrying the COVID virus, right?
So you would think.
Yeah, so he shouldn't be quarantined. But what if he is positive? And the split moment in time is that arc I'm talking about. He stop off at Food Land, say, "Aloha, auntie, how are you?" Touch, keep, and all that other good stuff. Come without a mask. That's the danger of what we talked about last night, is that split moment in time. Okay,
that is a danger. That is a danger. I mean, that is what we've been talking about for over a month already, and I think, Charlie, I watched the Senate committee meeting today. They had the Attorney General, they had the police chief, they had the DOT, the HTA, the XYZ, they had everybody on there. They had Angela Keene from the Hawaii Kapu Busters, or the Quarantine Kapu Busters, which is a group of over 2,500 people. Now, in fact, Charlie, we got to go find out how to join that thing, and we'll take care of Kauai. But my point is,
the thing is online. Adam Wojak, they also members of that.
Yeah. I guess must have just, I don't know why I never signed up for that thing, but I guess my point is, their discussion today was like the same discussion they had a month ago. It's the same thing. It's the same damn thing. We still haven't gotten a handle of the airports, and it's been months. We're still talking about the same thing, how we're gonna catch them. I mean, Angela Keene did an amazing representation of actual cases that they have exposed.
Mm-hmm.
This is not going to stop, and this is the frustration. And now, on the other side of the coin, you get the governor that's released his plan, which I got a chance, thanks to Thomas Nizo, sent me an email with the plan, the recovery plan. And we are on the move to open up Hawaii. And the airports haven't been resolved yet. Turo, rental cars, Airbnbs, all of these things. In fact, Angela Keene exposed today that there is an underground discussion group or discussion groups that tell the tourists how to avoid quarantine here in Hawaii. It's what's happening. It's happening all over. They have it all figured out. Put a false address. You heard about the girl that went to the hostel. She tells the people at the airport, I'm staying at a hostel. And then she just cancels the hostel's reservation or whatever they call it, and then is out free as a bird right now. Who knows what she's spreading? But again, it's frustration, it's anger, it's fear, and this ain't fear mongering. This is what's happening, and it's hard to explain unless you watch this stuff at the state level. It's really hard to understand what's going on, and you heard it straight from the horse's mouth today that this is happening, and these people are coming in already prepared to avoid the quarantine, to violate the quarantine, because their vacation plans are I think was that you, Charlie, tell me last night? This is thrill seekers.
Yep.
These adventurous people. I love adventure. I bungee jump. I do all those things that people think I'm crazy. I love that. But all of the things I do that's thrill seeking doesn't put anybody else at risk. And to think that you're gonna come here but you imagine the adventure though. Charlie, just think if you and me was married. We just got married, you and me, Charlie. Hey, Charles, you know what? Let's go to Hawaii for a honeymoon. No, Mel, there's a quarantine. Nah, man, we can beat the quarantine. That'll be part of the fun. If we get caught, we get caught. What the hell? That's what's happening. And we, for the life of me, I cannot figure out how we cannot stop that from happening. With all the resources we have here in the state, police, sheriff, now we get the National Guard. And we cannot get a handle on it. Mm-hmm. It is frustrating. It is.
Well, one thing I like to recapture, and this person just sent a note, and no, the person is right. Sometimes it takes 8 to 10 days to show a sickness. Okay, we're talking about testing, right? Because if we test a person on the day they arrive and they don't show any COVID, technically they're not subjected to the 14-day quarantine. Because if in fact we test them and they come out negative and they still got a quarantine, then we should save the money and they go straight to quarantine. No ifs, ands, or buts, correct?
Correct.
That's why we're asking for testing being done 3 days prior to getting on the plane. Because if they're COVID-free, they come over untethered, unencumbered, and they're proven to be free of the virus. It's not wait another 8 to 10 days. And so I just wanted to make that point, because if I coming back home to Hawaii is my home, and I get tested in California, right? And I'm free of the virus, and they say, oh yeah, but you still gotta go 14 days. I said, then why you subjected me to go get one test in the first place? Right? Are you telling me to go get? Are you telling me to go get one test to see if the test really works? And within 14 days, the thing manifests itself and goes, the test never worked. That's why. That's not what you're asking me.
Yeah. Josh Green had just texted me. He needed the link, so he should be coming on pretty soon. But I'm dying to hear what the LG's got to say. It's I understand the rush to open up, because I think we both do, Charlie. I think we both want to see the state open up. We want to see people go back to work. We want to see we want to get back to normal as soon as possible, but not at the risk and expense of the health of our people here. I think we get it. The social distancing, the disinfecting, the cleaning, all of that stuff. I think that's the new normal. And I think you're going to see a lot of decreases in regular colds and flus, because people are going to be more conscious of washing their hands and stuff. But this right now, the period that we're in right now, is dangerous because we still have huge numbers of this virus across the country, and in fact growing. So anyway, here he's knocking at the door. So let us bring in the Lieutenant Governor here. Oh, there he is. Nice t-shirt.
Hey, look at that beard. Holy cow.
It's been that long, my friend.
Wow.
It's been that long.
Man, jeez. I love it.
And you look younger. What the heck?
I got tan. I've been sunning.
Huh? What was that?
Suntan.
Oh, suntan. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, geez.
Yeah, he looks 15 years younger than the last time.
I know, my God.
Hard to believe. You guys are just buttering me up in a nice way.
Well, Lieutenant Governor, thank you for joining us, coming back again. I know you guys been super busy. We appreciate you making the time to come on as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining us again. We're not going to promote the shirts anymore because you notice we're not wearing our shirts no more. Charlie still has them hanging up, but as we told you guys last night, we reached our goal as far as the Hawaii Community Foundation is concerned. Charlie and I and all of you were able to raise over $6,000 in shirt sales. So that chapter is done. Kirk Correa from Island Athletic Tees is taking over the helm, and he's going to be selling those shirts online. Same prices. And he has a third shirt coming up. I got to see the design today, Charlie.
Oh,
you guys are going to love it. Anyway, just wanted to welcome everybody in. And Lieutenant Governor, what the hell's going on, buddy?
Oh, yeah. Well, no one is dying, which is a good thing. Let's start there.
That is a good thing.
Yeah.
That is a good thing.
Yeah. Our hearts are going out still to loved friends and family. And things have cooled down a great deal. As you guys know, you've had the greatest of successes on Kauai and Lanai and so on. So we're at 641 cases, only about 23 cases in the last 20 days. So extremely few, meaning the viral load is as low as you can go. And so the time is really come to make the right moves to open the economy. And it's one thing I think we'll probably spend some time talking about tonight, if it pleases you. We continue to be in a good spot medically. We've had the 641 cases total. The virus has only been one case or two cases for the last many days now. And we've begun to open up the Kama'aina economy with some certainty. The easy low-hanging fruit opened up already, things where there was no contact. Now the medium risk businesses have begun to open, and that's something I could share. It's being called Beyond Recovery, which is there's some weird words being tossed around. I don't know, not curse words. I'm just saying some words. Language matters, in my opinion, and I'd like to make people confident, not confused about things. So we can do a little better job about that, and hopefully we'll clarify some things tonight. Just let me finish the technical comments. We're down at only 10% of our ventilators in use, so we have maximum capacity. If, for God's sake, we had a surge, we are at about 35 to 40% of our ICU beds are occupied on any given day, and around half of our hospital beds as we resume regular healthcare services. I'm also supposed to tell everybody, please go to your doctor if you need to. Don't hesitate. It's safe now. There's been no risk. And so if you have regular visits and whatnot, go because we want to keep them going. We don't want them to vanish from Hawaii. So I wanted to mention that. But from a healthcare standpoint, we're good. 92% of all of our people who have come and gone through coronavirus with infection have been cleared. That's a good thing. So we're down to less than 50 people in the state that are in essentially mandatory quarantine for having had the virus. We still have, of course, a lot of the stay-at-home order. Now what I'm hearing more than anything from people is they are eager to get, back to some normalcy in their lives. The economic health is probably surpassing the physical health as a concern. And obviously there's been some really heartbreaking moments on Kauai where people have lost their lives in other ways, as we know, to self-harm and suicide, something that my family went through 2 years ago. So it's definitely time, in my opinion, to get going. The medium risk businesses are kind of outlined like this. If you are face-to-face and you have to be with somebody, if you're getting a haircut like Mel needs very badly, then, that's medium risk. It's going to be medium risk for that Barb are dealing with what they have to get control of course, but it shouldn't be a virus. It shouldn't be a concern. People will have masks, and restaurants will begin to open. They'll space out nicely, so on and so forth. And I'm very interested in hearing what the people of Kauai feel about travel in the inter-islands, because you've been so well protected. That's something that I want to be mindful of and hear firsthand from you. So that's where we've come. And so in the first week of June, this last week of May and first week of June, there will be a lot of announcements, it appears, from the governor about reopening. And he ceded a fair amount of the authority to the mayors because they know their own communities very well, as you know, and council members who are excellent, present company included, over the years. And so I think we're now moving, and then we can move to the discussion about opening tourism more broadly, probably in July. So I thought I'd start there because we always run short on time because I talk too much and we don't have as much time for questions as we'd like. And so I just wanted to thank you guys for including me, and I can share anything that you asked. Yes.
Lieutenant Governor, let me ask you a real quick question.
Yes.
Because we had this question posed. You know, when we had that individual coming from Arkansas, he tested and he left, and 3 days later, he got the results back. He was positive. If, because the way the proclamation is written, if a person comes back and the only indicator was a fever, that was the only indicator, he didn't have anything else.
Yes.
If he would have came in with a fever, get a nasal swab by AMR down at the airport, he leaves, test results come back negative. Is he still subjected to the 14 days, or is he cleared?
He's still subject to the 14-day quarantine because, as of now, based on the current rules, because anyone traveling back from the mainland still has the 14-day quarantine.
So I stand to be corrected. Yeah. Yes, because I said, because if we're talking about testing being the most aggressive thing we can do, then if they get 1 3-day test prior to coming and they're negative, they're still going to be in quarantine anyway, if the order stands the way it is.
Yes, if the order stands the way it is. Thank you for that clarification, because I think it's just we haven't gotten there yet. So as we go forward, once we hit the time to really open tourism, that there will be several layers of protection at the airport. And we're working with Ford Fujigami very closely on this. That will be the policy, I believe. If people get cleared with a negative test, whether it's a rapid test at the airport, if we have that capacity, or if they take the time to get a test, a confirmed, reliable test on the mainland, that is when we will have the new policy to allow people in because they are negative. But as of now, we haven't set up that kind of standard. And truth be told, we're still not screening as vibrantly as we'd like at the airport, as any of us would like. We've got a lot of security there, but we're going to have all kinds of scanners and thermal scanners and cameras and so on that are fairly high tech as part of our screening process coming into Hawaii. And so we stand to be pretty well protected. I still feel personally that we ought to have a standard where we test people and they're negative before they come to Hawaii. The most perfect system would be to test people when they came to our shores, but that's going to be a pretty big lift given how many people come day to day.
Okay. So one more question, Mel. One more question of the Lieutenant Governor. So if we know opening the economy up means, inter-island travel, because, pretty much the caseload is so low,
yes,
that we know the only way it's going to start upticking again is coming from the outside. So if we reside here, we should be able to travel. But yet, is the governor confident we can travel, or is he worried that, because it kind of puts the catch-22 on the testing mode again, right? And that's the thing that seems to be the hurdle, is whether or not we can get the testing in place before we start opening up. Because up until this point, we're talking about residents freely moving around in the island. But then it's like a juggling act. You got 3 balls. Now, when you bring tourism in, the 4th ball comes into place, and whether you can juggle it efficiently or not, that's going to be a problem.
That is right. And I'll tell you, it makes me concerned. Every day I wake up and push them a little bit to say, guys, it's now May 19th. You're talking about first in June, getting our act together again and having inter-island travel be safe, which it should be safe. My opinion is that we have such a low viral load now. You're spreading nothing to nothing. You should be fine with no spread between Maui and Kauai and Oahu. It's just very low. But there will be cases that come from the mainland. And so I'm making all the plans I can to make sure we have partners over there, whether it's CVS or Walgreens or whomever, that would agree to test individuals if they show up. And that's a very simple way for people to do it. And we can then put them right into our system and use their database to confirm that they didn't lie, cheat, or steal to get into Hawaii and come visit Mal.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Because I think that that's very important. I'll tell you this, I can already envision a system where we will have a fast track and a slower track coming into Hawaii, where if people have gone through the process of getting screened, we will be very easy to say you're negative, you have no fever. Their probability of having the virus is super duper low. And then we're okay. I mean, we cannot be perfect, but we can make an attempt to keep things, to have the probability be so low that there won't be spread of any consequence. So that is very good. Then the slower lane would be if people didn't take the time to travel with a sense of aloha for us, then we're going to put them through the ringer. I mean, and I think that that's going to be a very strong disincentive to travel without good planning, because if you face a 4 to 6 hour process at the airport where we're screening you and taking another temperature and getting your address and putting you into a website, and frankly, we should still try to do a rapid test on you, that's going to be, people are going to get the word really fast. And I think that other states are doing it now, so we ought to be able to do it. Other countries, Iceland, believe it or not, is preparing to do this. And I know that sounds silly, but Iceland has some similarity to us. They have about a fifth of our population. They have about a fifth of our tourism, 2 million a year. They have had very low rates of COVID-19, and they're very safe right now. So, that country, New Zealand, others, they make some sense as to these models. And it's certainly something we can do. I refuse to believe that we can't do rapid testing. They're doing rapid testing now, of course, in South Korea. They're doing it in Israel. They're doing it all over the place. And so it's a matter of will. And I think that we owe it to ourselves, because also imagine if we don't test and we go from essentially 0 cases to X on some level, right? Whatever that is, much higher. People are going to want to beat the ass of tourists. It's not going to be cool. It's going to be really frustrating, because we're going to be scared for our keiki. We're going to be thinking our kupuna have been exposed unnecessarily. And we don't want to feel that way about tourists. We want to love them and know that they're respecting us and that we're taking their money for the right reasons, which is they're having an experience of a lifetime. But we don't want to fear them or what they bring. And I don't think it's prudent for us to go forward without a really good comprehensive plan. And so, I know I tease by saying that kind of thing, but we know what it means having been locked up for 2 months, and we know what it would mean if we had to go back. Imagine that. That's what I'm conveying to Hawaiian Airlines and to my colleagues at the Capitol and to all the other businesses here in the hotels. Imagine if we had to go back into home isolation for another 2 months. I don't think that would be psychologically doable. So I'm trying to mitigate that with a simple policy of getting a test before people come to Hawaii. And honestly, I think that's going to boost our traveler base, because I think people are going to say, wow, it was one thing to know that Hawaii was extraordinary. It's another thing to know that it's both extraordinary and so safe that I don't have to worry in any way. It's the one place in the world I really don't have to worry about the virus. And that when I think about what's beyond recovery, not this thing, okay? I mean, this is all right, but when I think about beyond recovery, I'm thinking about 2 years, 4 years, 6 years out, where people see what Hawaii did and what it stood for, and it will add kind of an ethos to Hawaii and the travelers, and I'm hopeful for that.
I'm gonna read this comment before I make my point. It says, as a flight attendant that lives on Kauai, I really don't want tourists here yet. Testing and loopholes need to be fixed and done. And I think that is going back to your comment about the if we got to shut down again because the virus decided to show up, and we haven't done our job as a state to do the best we can to secure or make it as safe as possible. I think the people will understand if we have done everything we possibly can, and and we get a little spike. You know, the problem that I watched the Senate committee hearing today. They're discussing, Lieutenant Governor, they're discussing the same things they discussed a month ago. They're talking about the same things, the same ways that visitors are being able to get around the quarantine. Angela Keene and her group, the whatever, something Kapu Busters, Quarantine Kapu Busters, are out exposing a lot of these people who are violating, and these guys are actually out there with cameras and videotaping them, and they're using Airbnbs and they're using Turo. They're according to Angela, there's an underground network of resources where these people are learning from each other how to do it, and we're not stopping it at the airport. We're not doing it. And today I heard a lot about this new high-tech things and apps and this thing that you can take a picture of their documents and we should get a copy of the passport. All of that crap, Josh, is crap. You know, for this, you need low tech. Yeah, you need manpower. You need people that know what they're doing. As simple as verifying the address of where this person said that they were going to be staying.
Yeah.
And if they cannot verify that place, then they should not be allowed to leave the airport. That's Yes. You know, obviously the best case scenario is have them tested before they get on a plane.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think you and I both know that's going to take a long time if it ever happens. But from now until then, and the numbers of visitors growing slowly every day, we got to get it together at the airport. And it's like deja vu. I watched today. It's like, wow, wait a minute. That's the same. They're asking the same question they asked a month ago. Yeah. And we still haven't been able, and we got, think about it, we got the police, we got sheriffs, we got National Guard, we got more law enforcement around than we've had in a long time. And that doesn't seem like a very difficult task to accomplish. And kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that, because I mean, until that happens, like the flight attendant says, and that's her bread and butter, I don't want them coming until we can make sure that when they leave that airport to go into the community and go to the restaurant. I was saying last night on the show, you got a bunch of these guys coming here that they cannot go to the beauty shop because it might be closed where they're coming from. Guess where they're going to go? They're going to go to the beauty shops here. And who knows if they're not tested, how dangerous that could be. But anyway, I was just curious, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts are, you're right. And there can be no excuse. The single truth is that one case started the outbreak in America. One single case at one point, right, which became 3, which became 9, and then 27, and then you're looking at 81, and then it's behind you. Then it was several thousand and gone. And we could see that if we're not careful. We can't just expect to be lucky. Maybe we're lucky once, so somewhat fortunate, and we made some good decisions, I suppose. But there's no excuse to let anybody out of the airport. Human nature is, can be wily, and they'll do what they can, but there's no excuse to not do the most basic thing, in my opinion, which is if someone doesn't come with a test, then we tell them you have to be tested. And then if you want to lock it down, you take them to a quarantine facility and say, we have this wonderful quarantine facility that you're going to get to stay at this hotel, and that's it. Tell us when you want to be tested. You'll be negative, we assume. And if you're negative, have at it. Go to the beach. Do whatever you got to do. But that's where, in my opinion, we have to head. And the only way to do that is to really pull the trigger. And honestly, I don't want to betray any trust, but General Hara has really taken strong positions in a positive way on that kind of thing. And there's a whole lot of nonsensical bureaucracy that occurs. And I think that if you just pull the trigger and buy up a hotel, rent, of course, you can have that capacity and tell people we're going to be serious about this. People will get tested then, because they're not going to want to stay away from where they're paying for their nice vacation or whatever they've chosen. We can also, of course, we can tell them they're going to have to reimburse for the cost. That's another thing we have the capacity to do. So it wouldn't even be that expensive. And so I think that a lot of people are looking outward, maybe slightly over the top of this hill, at when we officially allow tourism to resume with proper screening to go into a non-quarantine state. But we have this perpetual loophole you're seeing, and it's frustrating as heck. There is good news. We have not seen a surge, but I don't want to be overconfident, because like we were just talking about, it can happen quickly.
So we, as far as Hawaii is concerned, I guess our fight against COVID happened at a very minimal effort, which was staying at home, practicing social distancing, washing your hands. It was no medical intervention whatsoever, nothing high tech. The question is, because everything is well controlled right now, we know who's ever infected, we know where it's at. But when the numbers start multiplying, 1,500 arrivals a day, correct me if I'm wrong, Lieutenant Governor, I don't think we even have the contact tracing methodology in place to handle something like that.
We wouldn't if we had large numbers of cases. You're right. We are going to, right now we have no cases at the moment, or very few, right? We could handle case numbers in the range of 50 to 100. I mean, that kind of caseload, if we had an outbreak, yes, we could then contact trace and test people quite efficiently. But that's my concern. If you let this get away, like if we go back anywhere near our old tourism numbers, which approach 30,000 people per day, and you assume that 1% of the people could be positive if you don't adequately test people beforehand, your numbers get out of control very badly. You surge within 10 weeks to a place where it overwhelms our hospitals, and you'd have no chance on earth to trace everyone. And then it's gone. Then we've all been exposed. And so then we will only be playing catch up, and we'd have to recommit to the lockdown. And that's not doable. I mean, I think it's interesting, because soon friends and colleagues are going to decide, they're going to realize there is no option. There is no option other than comprehensive testing and screening like you've never seen before at the airport, because you can't keep it away unless the virus has died on the mainland. There are other ways we could bring tourism here. Let me mention those and see what you think. We are talking about bubbles, which I think you've heard, I'm sure about. And that would be a relationship with an area that has a very low rate. Those places exist now. I would say that we could do that with New Zealand, Australia, Japan, and Alaska, interestingly. Now, we could choose to do that. We could start that way. There might be some merit in starting with Japan because, number one, the spread risk is very low. They have very few cases. Two, the very nature of the Japanese tourist is relatively safe, because the Japanese community, I don't want to sound, please, no one should take this personally or sound like I'm disparaging anyone. They stay to themselves quite a lot when they travel. They are a more just very thoughtful, a more insular traveler than, say, some of my relatives, like from New York, that you can't control those guys, And so the Japanese community would be quite safe, especially where their virus is and so on. And the Japanese tourist segment of our industry represents 20% of all travelers, but 30% of all dollars. It also is very heavily weighted towards Oahu, where we have, it represents half of all the people that are tourists to Oahu. And that could take some of the pressure off of the neighbor islands where we have a little less capacity in case there's healthcare needs or whatever. Now, that would only have very limited economic benefit, especially for our neighbor island businesses, but it would be safe and it would be tax revenue for the state and it would be a way to go. And those conversations are going on right now. So I could see that happening. And it's also very easy for me to imagine the Japanese community testing themselves or being tested before boarding planes. I have a harder time seeing us tell Chicago guys and New Yorkers to do that. You know what they're going to say. So, so these are the considerations, and we may very well have to, if we can only get in the short term, a partial commitment from people to test, we may have to only embrace tourism from certain regions that are way less risky. And that as I say that, I'm thinking about the person that Mel just described, that stewardess who's on a plane, who works for a living and is very worried that we don't have a vaccination and she doesn't trust whether it's going to be safe. Well, that would be a lot safer. And I really look forward, as you guys look at that and maybe take an internal poll, that would be helpful input for me to share with Gov and everybody.
Lieutenant Governor, so one of our viewers asked to ask this question of you: herd immunity.
Yes.
Can you give us an overview? Is it a myth? Is it what is up with herd immunity?
That's a great question. Okay, so herd immunity is the word herd is describing us like a herd of animals, okay, which we are. I mean, we're mammals and we're all together, and we spend a lot of close social time with one another. When you reach 60% of a population, 60% of a population that is that has antibodies to a disease, then those antibodies start spreading through the last 40% of the population. And so as a herd, we all become immune without having to have the last group of people actually get sick with a virus or whatever, a bacterium or what have you. So you can achieve herd immunity that way, or you can achieve herd immunity simply by getting people immune, by giving them a vaccination. So if you get to 60%, you can then the immunity starts spreading out. Now, if you want to perfect herd immunity, like when we went to Samoa, they didn't have herd immunity initially. They had thinned out their vaccination rates on measles, and that's why the outbreak occurred. And so what happened was we, in a really accelerated way, immunized a lot of people. And my apologies to people who hate immunizations. I get it. I'm not going to ever be the guy that says you got to do mandatory immunizations. That's not me. You can blame other people for that, But the truth is, when we got the immunizations up, because people volunteered to take them in Samoa, then after about 2 weeks, when that threshold had been passed, the last bits of people got immune, and the measles just burned out, gone. It's quite amazing. I think there is going to be a vaccination, just so people know. I think it will be announced very possibly later this year. I know that that's a very aggressive timetable, but we're in unique times when there's a lot of pressure to get that done for the planet. There's a lot of political pressure for the president to have some kind of way to explain how we're going to be okay in an election year. And something tells me that that's going to be coming a lot sooner, maybe in the fall, rather than waiting all the way till winter. But as soon as I know, I'll tell you. I don't have a crystal ball. But that's how you look at herd immunity. And there is some herd immunity building up in the mainland. We would benefit if individuals came here and they were already immune and they had antibodies. Then it's actually a benefit to have some travelers here. But it's not guaranteed that it'll save or protect us. And so we're pretty low. We've been doing antibody testing now quietly in different parts of the state, and we're finding that only about 0.5% of our people have been positive or have developed antibodies. Very low rate right now. So if we were suddenly to airdrop 300 really sick people with COVID-19 in Honolulu, if that happened, it would spread like crazy. I mean, it would go wild. And that's the tourism consideration I have. That's what I envision. We're not going to let symptomatic people come here under any circumstance, but we know plenty of people are asymptomatic carriers.
Is it 40%? That's the number I keep hearing from all the experts. About 40% asymptomatic.
Yes, and that's why I want people to get a test. Yeah, get a test. It's no big deal. I'm actually kind of dumbfounded that anybody ever says, it's going to be too hard. So what? Okay, if it's too hard, don't come. No problem. Problem solved. You know.
Real quick, Charlie, I got a real quick follow up on the vaccine. I was watching the news today. I don't know what channel it was, but part of the vaccine process, that first phase is animal testing. Is it true that they've bypassed or they've skipped the animal testing portion of this vaccine and going straight to human testing to expedite the vaccine? And is that a good idea?
It would be a bad idea, but they didn't skip it. They were in secret testing early on with animals. I have had some briefings on that. So they went through animal testing very early on some primates and some mice, and then they moved on to the next phase.
Okay.
And they are accelerating tests. Also, they'd already passed the animal testing phase on some vaccinations for other coronaviruses in London. And so they were just in Oxford. They were already pretty far forward on antibody testing and also vaccination work in coronaviruses. The problem with getting vaccinations for coronaviruses has always been people don't want to invest in doing it because they typically burn out after 1 year. And then the pharmaceutical companies, which do want to make money, they do that testing. And if there's no market for it on the back end because we become immune, they just wasted their money. Now, this circumstance has created a global need. And so governments are paying a lot of money to support the effort. And we should get a result. In fact, my understanding is that they're going to have partnerships so that several different companies are working together, and they'll all reap the reward together, and they'll mitigate the risk together in case they fail. So I think we will get a vaccination, and I think coronavirus vaccinations are going to become something like flu vaccinations in the future. I won't be surprised if you see a guy like me in the clinic and I say, okay, Charlie, are you ready for your flu shot and your coronavirus shot? You just look at me like, do I have to pay this copay again? You're like, yep, sorry. Sorry, Yeah.
Hey, Doc, let me ask you, it's pretty evident that testing is the answer. We can't get around that. I mean, it's obvious. But to have it be conducted before, because once it gets on Hawaii soil, then it becomes a little problematic at that point because anything can happen. And we're trying to fend it off by having it done before you get here.
Yes.
So what are the hurdles preventing us from actually getting it implemented abroad? Is it that all states got to buy into this program in order for it to be effective?
Not really. The hurdle is that legally you can't make somebody get a test as a state. What you can only legally do is quarantine people. Now, the airlines can have a standard, and the mitigating way to do it is to just share with everybody that we expect a test. We do this I think we've talked about this a little bit before. We have very strong protocols to keep rabies out of the state of Hawaii because rabies will kill you and certainly is bad for animals. So we go through the very rigorous testing process and making sure that there's a titer on our animals and they come in and it's fine. Well, it's one thing to do it for pet, the other thing to do it for people. So what I think will happen is we need to have, first of all, a few other markets realize it's just very doable. That's why I mentioned that they're doing it in United Arab Emirates and Iceland and for Guam and for so on and so forth, right? And the moment that a more mainstream country, I'm not saying Iceland's not mainstream, but I'm sure I'm not going to alienate any Icelandic Kauai residents tonight, okay? So I think that when we start seeing the Japanese community doing it at the airport and doing it seamlessly and doing it with a basic test, the test does not have to be perfect. It's just got to be good. Then people say, oh, okay. A lot of rapid testing can be done at an airport lounge or at a pharmacy on the mainland, and then it's done. And here's my code my travel code. That's all it is. It's really just will. And I think from our perspective, we have to accept the fact that, yeah, it might take a little longer for tourism to come back, but the reward is very large to not have to be set back. And so I'll be meeting with Chris Tatum and Mufi Hahnemann sometime in the next couple of days to continue to express, and I already have, and I know that Chris likes the idea, and I think Mufi will too, the need to do this. You saw Ed Case jump on the bandwagon in a positive way, and he reached out to the FAA and the feds to try to get that to be the standard. I forgot to tell you this. I talked and met with the head of the CDC about this, and he liked the idea very much. In fact, he was more than happy to have us use our share of the, we're getting $50 million for testing for the state of Hawaii. I don't mess around any longer. I just kind of go to the top guys and try to find out what the deal is. So I hate having meetings and then have to do them again and again. And and he said, fine. He said it was a great idea. He actually knew already that I had called it Travel with Aloha. I guess those guys are hard up for a vacation. And he just plain liked the idea because he understood from his perspective the economic benefits of us being safe and clean. And he also saw the wisdom in just having a simple standard, because look how complicated it's going to be if we don't have that.
Right.
It really difficult when people go into hotels and everything else and restaurants and barbershops.
So like post 9/11, 9/11,
yes.
The new normal is what we have today, which is TSA.
Yes.
It wasn't before, so now we have TSA. And we learned to live with it because it upgraded the safety yes. standard. I mean, who would have thought that, now they make you take off your shoes because somebody tried it with the shoes. Thank God they don't make us take off our Beberese because somebody tried it with Beberese. You know what I mean? But thank God that didn't work. But yes. Nevertheless, would you anticipate something happening like you said, the COVID test card that says we're free, or something similar to like what they have on the Gold Star, that in order to travel, you've gotta be updated with something that similar and administered by the TSA at that point, because we got to check through them. That's yes. the only way to get through those checkpoints. Do you anticipate anything like that?
I anticipate exactly that, actually. In fact, that is the plan. Although I'm not supposed to talk about the plan until it gets unveiled. But those are the essential underpinnings of the plan. And I don't want to put any pressure on the good guys that are going to work at the airports and so on. But that is the essential model that we would use. And it just requires, it's going to sound like a lot, but about $14 million, somewhere between $12 and $14 million of personnel for a whole year, which is what we need. We need 1 year to get through this whole thing, then it'll be done. And sure, we may waste $6 million, but we'll bring in $2 billion of safe tourism. So it's not a waste, really. And they are already experienced at doing that. And I think that's the only practical way to really do it, because sometimes you have to do what you know how to do. Just to totally invent something new, it always has flaws in its implementation. And this is a unique situation. You kind of got one shot to have a good safe 2020. You don't get to do it again. So I make a point of following up very closely. It's a little bit unfortunate that people aren't seeing how straightforward this could be right off the bat, because if everybody were saying, good, get a test, come to Hawaii, no problem, we'd know. I mean, next time I go on CNN, I'm going to say it again. That, in fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, and I'm very curious what you guys think about this. Let's say that theoretically they don't have the guts to go with my plan and insist from a policy standpoint that we have to have a test before coming in, that we just have multiple layers of other screening. I'm still going to speak socially about, and on TV and everything, to the global community. I intend to, asking them politely to please get a negative test, because it will help when you come through the airport. It will make a big difference, and it will make a big difference to our community that you took to heart, that you were going to travel to Hawaii safely. And I'm going to make a point of doing that. And then there will be some implementation wins, because for instance, imagine when it comes time to make a decision about the Honolulu Marathon and 30,000 people want to come here. Well, that's a group that we can go directly to that comes, the same group of people come every year to run that damn race, right? So we can very clearly say to that group, because there's going to be an extreme surge in the month of December, we want you to all go get a test. Maybe we'll even incorporate that into the incentive package to come here. But that and certain conventions. So my team is already putting together plans to reach out to some of the traditional large groups that come to Hawaii and say to them, you have an opportunity to be celebrated as visitors to Hawaii that are truly our friends. And I'm going to do that anyway. So it's better if it's formal policy, of course. And I don't want to do it the hard way, which is to tell people, well, we're going to hold you up in the airport forever until you get tested. That seems a little bit maybe necessary, but it's going to be unpleasant. So I'd prefer, first priority, get the test approved, just to have that done. Second, use it as a benefit for people to come in. And third, of course, use the hammer and just, bring it down.
I do want to say that, as I was studying you earlier, before I asked you that question, I do practice mental tilapia. So I kind of think that you and I, we're on the same track. But something like this would be similar to what we do at PreCheck. I know some people don't like it because you give up a lot of information to get it, but it has its benefit on the back end. And that is you have that freedom to travel. So what you're talking about, which you cannot disclose too much, it's almost like a PreCheck program, really. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And we will have a form, and we're working that out right now, that will have a place for people to say, here was my testing code. They can also carry a form with them, but you never can tell if that was their test or not. So it's better to have a PreCheck that's done well.
Thank you.
So what's the holdup? I mean, I know we had discussions about the designated facility. Attorney General was kind of hesitant about that, but I mean, what's the holdup? What's preventing all of this from happening? Because if we don't do this, some bad things can happen. And like you said, we get one shot at this, and we mess it up, it's going to be very difficult to get back to where we're at right now. But what's the holdup? What is it? Is it political will? Is it logistics? I don't want to hear manpower and money, because there's a lot of that all over the place. What the heck is the problem?
I think that it's a small combination of the Department of Health hasn't committed to that kind of thing yet, though they should. They were very stubborn. I respect them to a point. They're very stubborn about the need for the testing that we all proposed, which was testing anyone who's symptomatic and any close contacts, which became the evident standard of care, and now is what people do. And there have only been a few cases of countries that have done a PreCheck screening with a test. It just has not been done a lot because this is early in a singular disease. And so you and I know Hawaii has not often been first at anything in these kind of protocols, right? We've often waited and watched. Well, this is not one you get to wait and watch on. I mean, unless you took the draconian position that there will be no travel to Hawaii for the whole year. You could do that, but it would be calamitous on the economy, right? I mean, no one is really saying that. No tourists. We just don't have enough resource to keep ourselves going. We'd have so many problems. So because we don't really have that luxury, if I'm being direct, we just have to get, the political will. And each day I pick off a few more people, and I often hear, well, do we really have the capacity on the mainland? And I'm quickly getting to the point where I just say, first of all, yes, there are a lot of different tests that are available. And second of all, who cares? Really, if we don't have adequate tests in 2020 for all the travelers that choose to come, and look, we're only expecting 5 or 6 million people at the very most, right? For the second half of the year, probably less than that by half. There are that many tests available. And if people can't get a test, that's okay. They can come in 2021. That's perfectly fine. So I think it's just an excuse. And I think some people are so stunned by the impact on their businesses, they're afraid at the airlines and at the other levels, maybe the hotels, that any impediment to getting travelers to come here over other markets could sink us. But as soon as they realize that we're totally sunk if we have a recurrence, like a resurgence of the disease, there's no other answer. It's just, well, there is one other answer. We test everybody at the airport. We just tell people, you're going to be at the airport a hell of a long time, and we're going to test you. And if you don't, if you test positive, you are going to be in mandatory quarantine. That's the only other option.
It's like the TSA pre-check, right? You can pay the $80 and get that little stamp on your ticket that you bypass that long line. I mean, people will do it, and this is just getting a test. It's not having to go and take your passport and go get interrogated by the feds just to see who the hell you are.
Yeah.
We talk about testing even on Kauai, and I see a couple of comments about people still having issues with getting tested here because they don't have enough symptoms. I thought we took care of that, but apparently it's still happening, and that frustrates me to no end. And that leads me to the next issue that I've been seeing coming up in the comments is the Camphor housing cluster. That was that struck me because I watched that conference, the press conference that day, that the media asked the governor the status of the cluster, and he didn't know about it. And then they brought Bruce up, and Bruce said that whatever Bruce said, that one's difficult. We've been looking into this for a while. But the language barrier is causing a problem. And the media said, wait a minute, we talked to the management office, and they said no one even made an attempt to come talk to the residents. So what really happened at Camphor, if you can say?
I could say, I'm a big mouth. They blew it. They didn't talk to people, and they there were some, there's some basic investigators that were poking around. There were some cases. The communication was lacking, that they hadn't looped in the director of health appropriately, because sometimes they don't want to bug them with everything, but that's the kind of case where you have to. And to my knowledge, Hakeem had not been informed about it, and he's in charge of managing that facility. One of the excuses that was given was a pure excuse, and I have experienced this with the Micronesian population. There is a sense that when you are putting something into somebody, that you may be giving them disease. This is a cultural phenomenon. I saw that when I was treating a lot of people as the doctor in Ka'u. Believe it or not, for this will bug everybody, I was treating a fair amount of leprosy, actually, when I was early in my career as a doctor on Big Island. A lot of patients had leprosy or Hansen's disease. And to go and take people's blood or run tests on them, they felt culturally that you were potentially giving them a disease. And so there's a very deep seated cultural resistance to getting tested and to participate with Western medicine on a certain level. I don't want to be biased because, look, some very brilliant people from the Micronesian community are get PhDs, and they're every way my superior intellectually. But in that particular case, there were very uneducated individuals that didn't want to be tested or were not willing to participate. But it was a fail of communication on the Department of Health side. And, I think people are a little bit punch drunk from the work volume as compared to what it was before. Think about it. They've been doing their jobs as Department of Health, and this wasn't here, right? And now everything they do is COVID related, but they still have other things going on. I'm still taking care of people with cancer and heart disease and so on, right, as a doc. So I think they're just overwhelmed, which is why we've had to make the point from the Senate committees and General Hara and others, you have to accept help. Probably we should stand up, in my opinion, probably a whole separate entity to simply do the tracing and testing so they don't have to worry about it, so they can do the analytics and the core public health mission. I think that would make a lot more sense and get guidance from the epidemiologist. But they blew it there, and fortunately there was not massive spread. It's hard to believe even.
Well, let me just, the only way we're gonna get through this, in my opinion, is if we can regain the trust of the people. you know, the
Yes.
constituents, people that live here every day, that are home, that are not being able to go do things they want to do, and the frustration is growing. And when they see these kinds of things that happen, I mean, the state has to, and the Department of Health specifically has to get over that hump and restore that credibility, because it's going to be very difficult to get through this period with 100 or 1.2 million people looking for them to make mistakes versus they're not. I guess this is my point. They're not giving us a reason to cheer them on.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like
And
I hear you. I hear you, Mel. I feel kind of day in and day out that I'm the singular cheerleader to recommend what the people are calling for, you know, and I'm trying to just channel what I'm actually hearing and then put my medical hat on and asking the right questions. And I think that we should just let it go, let people's pride go. We have a unique opportunity, first of all, to declare victory on phase 1. It's been quite good for Hawaii. Now, phase 2, what I've tried to explain to the Department of Health is this is unlike anything we've ever had to do before. So don't take it personally when we say you're not able to do it yet. There would be no expectation that you already had 500 contact tracers and testers. There'd be no expectation that you would know that we had to mandate a test for traveling into Hawaii, because this has not happened before. We've had other outbreaks that were, you know, concerning to us when there was Ebola in Africa and when there was SARS and MERS, but we had very few cases of the SARS and MERS. We had no cases of Ebola. So they need to get past that. And if they don't, there was a giant showdown this last weekend between the Department of Health and pretty much everybody else. And the showdown was this: what's it going to take to move past this so that we can open up the states for tourism in July or August? What's it going to take? Because if you look at it, and then this is what I'm trying to express now to people, we have to have a way to keep our people safe. We cannot have an outbreak that's bad. Otherwise, we will have to shut it down and we will be devastated for years to come. So we have to be able to open up in some ways. We just have to be able to travel to visit our loved ones from time to time on the mainland and them to come here. So we have to be able to open. So we have to be able to trace and test in quarantine and make sure people don't come in hot. So that's true. And then we have to be able to open the economy if we're really being honest. We have to be able to. So we have to bring a lot of people in. So the only way to do that is to accept both. If you just do one, we're dead. No economy. We just test and trace, but we don't bring anybody in, we are finished. We will have 20+% unemployment for the foreseeable future, and it will have terrible consequences for a long time. And the flip side is if we just bring tourism in and just let the floodgates open, we'll be finished in 3 months. Finished. And that will last years and we will lose lives. That's even worse to me. It's one thing to be poor. It's another thing to be poor and some of your friends be dead. So we can't have that. So there's no question that we have to have a very, very good screening protocol at the airport. And the sooner we get to the point where we just accept that, the better. It's that easy.
You know, Lieutenant Governor, I think from what I hear from you, and this is just my 2 cents about it, is that we definitely have to do something. And we know what we need to do.
Yeah.
But it seems like people, you said the showdown occurred, and you've got people in places that maybe they can be the brightest in what they do, but maybe they lack that people skills that puts that blockade, so nobody can get beyond that. And the sad thing about it is, it's live and it plays out where the whole world can see. So, like Mel said earlier, you got to start getting that trust back in, because if we're to buy off on this program, they got to be the one convincing us why we got to buy off on it. You know, you can't just say it like, hey, go ride the roller coaster, and yet you notice there's no seatbelts in it. And yet you get reports that at the third turn of the roller coaster, people are flying out. You're not going to convince me to ride that, you know, sell me on it to make it safe. And I think that's what it's going to take. because you've got all the skills. You've got all the skills to attack this thing, and there's no doubt about it. It's just trying to apply it and wondering what's taking so long to get it done. Yeah. You know, that's the thing.
I think that's absolutely right. There are some people I'd like to put on the roller coaster without seatbelts on some days. I have to tell you, but that's not very nice. I've been told to be nice when I'm on your program.
Hey, you
at least you come on.
Yeah.
At least you come on, man. We're trying to get some guys on that they just don't want to come, but you know, we just try to share. We hear a lot of stuff on the news, and you guys are the only ones that can clear it up and clear up the garbage, you know, the stuff that's on the news. And that's why we bring you guys on, because you guys are the only ones that can do it. And with some certainty anyway. I know it's about 8 o'clock. I just wanted to
Can you give us 15 more minutes there, Lieutenant Governor? Is it possible?
Oh, okay, I can. I'm hungry, though. I'll tell you.
Well,
you can eat while you're.
No, I'm too shy. No, I'll give you 15 more minutes, and I'm gonna blame you because my wife was waiting. But that's good. We're all good.
Kauai is opening up on the 22nd. I'm not. Apparently, our mayor has submitted a request to the governor to open up some things on Thursday. the salons and the barbershops, thank God. Yeah. But some other things that I saw on the order: horseback riding tours, ATV tours, hiking tours, and I'm wondering, is that a good idea? Because those tours are really set up for visitors, and maybe some local people will want to go if they have an opportunity because they're not working or whatever it is. But is that something is that part of the opening process? Is that the visitor attractions and activities scare me because it to me incites them to get out of the room.
Yeah. Well, if they break the rules, we do have the capacity to arrest them. Okay, so we can go that route, and we can also be very direct with anyone. Let's say it's a horseback riding tour, right? And we could tell them, like, you simply can't take people that haven't cleared the quarantine, or you're going to also be liable. So we are capable of doing that. I think it's overall safe. If I were going to just tell you just from a sheer, is it safe or isn't it safe? I think it's fine. The things you're describing are kind of one-on-one. So this will sound a little bit weird, but there's just a distinct similarity between giving someone a piano lesson, giving someone a horseback riding lesson, giving someone a surf lesson one-on-one, giving someone a haircut. Okay. All of those are prolonged encounters between two people where you can still do some social distancing, as in you can wear a mask and keep yourself safe. And frankly, anything outdoors is pretty low risk. So I think overall it's okay. If you just want my objective opinion. Now, if it means that hundreds and hundreds of extra people decide to vacation and break the rules in Kauai, then no. But we have to trust that we are policing ourselves pretty well. And I know there's economic desperation. So some people, because I talked to some ranchers that want to do these kind of one-on-one horseback riding lessons. I cautioned them, you can't be a part of the fail, because if we do get an outbreak, it shuts us all down. So, you know, it's a unique situation where we're in this together, because the actions of a few could affect the fortunes of many.
And again, I go back to the confidence of the screening process at the airports and the ability to make sure that these guys are quarantining. And I think that's where there's a lack of confidence, I think, from the regular people, from the general population. And you know, yeah, I want to be optimistic, but I've just seen too many, and we see them, and in fact, we know it's happening. And you know, I probably won't go to the barber shop to cut my hair, because I don't know if the guy that went there before me may have contaminated something. And I understand all these protocols are in place, but I definitely will call my barber to see and pay him a little extra to come to my garage and cut my hair. I mean, I'll trust him to cut my hair in the garage, but I'm not comfortable yet. I know maybe I'm a little paranoid, but I'm still really not comfortable because of this unknown element of visitors. You know, the whole other thing too. I want to get somebody from the HTA on here because the numbers that they report, that number system is so messed up. You know, they count every passenger that lands on Oahu, they count them for Honolulu. If that person jumps on an inter-island plane to come to Kauai, he's not counted for Kauai. So that report doesn't tell us here on Kauai how many passengers, how many mainland visitors are here on Kauai. They're all counted on Oahu. That's a crap. I talked to Sukanoho. She's been trying to fix that for almost 2 months now. And I don't know what the problem is. Why can't we know, the people of Kauai know, how many visitors are coming to our island on a daily basis? We don't know that. And then this whole bullshit about intended resident. What the hell is an intended resident? It's AKA homeless. Yeah. And they're getting through. And that is the problem that I'm so afraid of. And convince me that I'm overreacting, Doc. Convince me that I'm overreacting.
Well, the best thing I can do to tell you is that I do get to see the tip of the iceberg in a lot of different ways. And we've not seen a surge, fortunately, in fatalities, ventilator use, intensive care unit use under any metric. So we have not had, based on what we've been getting, which was first it was 100 or so people, and then it was 200, and then we had a couple of days it was 1,000. So we have contained the virus in a way that has been very meaningful, and we have been able to measure a lot of different things, even though some of the metrics are obviously, let's call them less than optimal. Another word is bullshit, right? But they are less than perfect. And the good news is I'm monitoring a lot of different things so that I can assure you from my perspective that we all need to see you get a haircut, and it probably is okay at the salon.
I actually feel a lot better. You remind me of my doctor,
yeah.
Dr. King. Yeah, no matter how sick I am, she always tells me I'm doing well.
Yes, that's right. You're okay. you're among the strongest. Yeah, it's the people of Kauai are strong, you know, and there's a really good heart there always. So I don't want people to be too worried, but I'm not against sounding the alarm if something's getting out of control. And so my general approach is to kind of bang the drum a little harder about what we should and must do for the big picture. Small things will be imperfect. People are imperfect. We know that. You know, me, you know, we all know Kouchi's imperfect. And then we've got the Department of Health, which is often even more imperfect given what we've seen. But we are good so far. It's the big picture that I worry about, and we can't drop the ball on that. Then you're totally right. We start getting 22,000 people a day, including several thousand to Kauai and Big Island and Maui. It could get out of control if we don't have a really serious screening plan. And there will be a lot of things we can do no matter what. We can shut down certain flights if we see spikes in one area or another. We can not allow travel. We can pressure airlines to not fly in. Let's say there's a big surge in, you know, Las Vegas. I'm making that up, even though I love Las Vegas. Okay. But like, let's say there's a big surge from there. We can tell people without any question, we're going to quarantine you coming from certain regions, and we're going to test you also, or you're going to stay in an extended quarantine. We can do those things. So there will be lots of other ways to kind of keep the lid on, but it doesn't take too many misses to cause a big problem. And we're not even talking about a scenario in which we got unlucky. You could get unlucky in some places and have a bad outbreak like they had in Seattle. And that is really that's something I don't want to have to come on to the show and explain someday, where we had a nursing home with 275 people and 80 people die. You know, I don't want to live through that. So that's why, you know, I'm right there with you as far as extra security in all ways.
Hey, Lieutenant Governor, real quick question. You know, there seems to be confusion with these salons that's going to be opening up soon. I know, I believe Kauai is opening up on the 22nd, and Maui is opening up on the 25th. But there's that question. I know Mayor Victorino said, ladies, you can go and get your hair washed, but can't use a blower. Is that something just specific for Maui, or is it for all hair salons? You can't use a hair blower. You know anything about that?
I haven't dug into the hair blower crisis, okay. But the truth is I have read through some of the protocols for salons, and they're going to be very careful. Honestly, the way I work, just so people know the way my brain works, is right now we have fundamentally no risk with the people that are in the islands. From a probability of spread circumstance, we have no risk. So I really don't care how much hair blowing goes on in the short term. In the long term, I start worrying about it when, you know, you and I see, when there's a spike, from visitors that come and, you know. So, you know, that's why I'm focused on that end game. But the mayors, it's kind of wild to watch the mayors each jostle with each other on one thing or another. Mm-hmm. I get it. I mean, you respond to who you talk to, you know, and you've got some people in one industry that are really passionate and they're in your ear and you see them a lot. You know, we're human. We deal with them. The bigger analytics are no risk right now, practically at all, very low. So you know, the beach is open, we're fine. Hair salons go open, we're fine. Restaurants can open pretty fine. I would like to see churches open if I could share that with you. You know, we'll be fine. And then New York flies here, and if we don't test them, we're not fine on any account because they have a large number of cases. So we have to test them. We have to screen them. We have to, you know, be very strict about that, or we have to quarantine people. And
so is the governor leaving it up to the mayors as far as whether they use a blower or not, or is it the governor's call on that? You know,
there's two things that are happening. One is if they comport with the CDC recommendations, if there are recommendations in any discipline, like restaurants and churches, for instance, the CDC is weighed in on, then the governor is just straight up saying if it meets CDC criteria, you're fine. Beyond that, if a mayor wants to do something that's outside of that, it's going to go through a vetting process from hell. Yeah. And then it's going to not happen because, you know, I don't think that we see Gov as the kind of guy that does stuff instantly. That's not where we are with him. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Hey, Dr. Miskovich, you got to go back and read the comments later after your dinner or tomorrow or whatever. But Dr. Miskovich just posted, hey, Josh, it's been a long time since you and I had to worry about blow drying our hair, buddy.
Yes, Miskovich, who is a dear friend, is so bald that he doesn't even have to worry about ukus. No uku will even spend time with Miskovich.
No, I heard you just say he's so bold. B-O-L-D or B-A-L-D?
Hey, capital A. All right. Hold on.
No, I got you.
Well, I got you. Doc, I know you got to run. Any closing comments for the people of Hawaii that's watching and that will be watching this? I got to tell you, last night, Charlie, I don't know if you noticed this, but didn't his head look brighter last night than he did in the last couple of times he was on our show? I don't know. Maybe it was
you remember
Dr. Miskovich. He was on our show last night.
You remember that movie actor Telly Savalas from Kojak?
Yes.
That's how it was last night.
Miskovich, he has a secret hairdresser that comes and waxes his head on Sundays.
These dogs were barking all night long. I think it was because the reflection that was scaring the dogs outside. It was, you know.
When the firefighters go by with the lights on, it flashes off Misko's forehead. That's true. I've seen that.
Oh God. Oh man. Well, anyway, he's a great guest. You know, he's just like you, transparent, open, honest, and I think that's all we ask for. You know, we all gonna make hiccups. We get bumps in the road. We all make mistakes. You know, what the public is asking is just, hey, keep us in the loop. just keep us in the loop and let's get through this together. And don't, don't, you know, the Coconut Wireless in Hawaii is amazing. So no, Charlie's laughing. I don't know what the hell he's laughing about. But.
Charlie, you know, Charlie.
LG, the floor is yours, buddy. It's your opportunity, man.
Okay. Well, look, just first let me say,
us we're mean, Charlie. Everybody's telling us we're mean.
We're not mean. Misco deserve it. But no, look, I wish I could be there with you on Kauai some, and I can't wait to come back with family. We come a lot, and so that would be fantastic. The truth is, we're safe now. We're doing well, but be patient and don't be too afraid. Things are okay. I will continue to press them to make some sensible decisions to open things up. If you want, I should probably be able to give a lot of extra information. I'm going to be on the Insights TV show. I think that's the PBS one on Thursday night. It's at, I want to say 8 to 9. So that'll be a way to also share. And maybe I'll try to say some volatile things to get them going on this testing. So I expect to do that. And I will keep coming back if you need me or would like to have me. And each day we chip away a little bit more at a good plan. And we're also watching. We're watching what's going on in the globe. I watch the numbers nationally, internationally, and in Hawaii every single day to discern trends and look at other countries so we can see where we have opportunities to be safe in case we don't have the perfect plan to bring people back. So we may have to be short of perfect, but very good. And as long as we can contain the disease and not expose ourselves to any significant risk, we'll get through 2020 okay. Then we're fine. 2021, people are going to be happy. 2021 is going to be a very good year because the virus will end. And we'll see more than just the light at the end of the tunnel. We'll see the whole tunnel. So I'm super happy that we haven't seen a surge, and I'm super frustrated that we don't have a plan in place that I can just share with you instantly, just tell you this is what it's going to be, and we're good. So hopefully that'll happen, and I intend to be super vocal on our behalf. So I hope that doesn't offend too many people, but I just appreciate you guys letting me come and talk to the people of Kauai.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doc. Hey, when was Insights again? I'm sorry. When was that? What night?
Thursday. The Thursday night.
Thursday.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely send our viewers to Insights on Thursday night at 8 o'clock because I love their format over there. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I'm going in there, man, and it's cold in that studio, but I'm gonna light it up a little bit.
Good.
Sounds like a plan. Someone is asking that maybe we should have you and Misco at the same time.
Having two Polish guys from Pittsburgh at the same time is extremely risky.
Hey,
might make for some
fun. Don't worry.
stuff.
We had two Portuguese on at the same time. It was kind of risky, but we made it through.
Yeah, because you can't hear. It's constant, But he gets similar problems from me and Misco. But no, he's like a big brother to me. And though we don't always agree on everything, he's got a heart of gold, and he cares so deeply about people. And he's really filled a giant void, when we needed it, which was to get some testing out there. We had to have testing to reassure ourselves that we were safe. And that has been very valuable. We're now over 41,000 tests, I believe, done. And we needed that data very badly.
Well, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you, Dr. Miscovich. I know you're watching and listening. And, there's always an open invitation for you, Doc, whenever you want to share what's new stuff, please let me know. But we got you on. Whatever. We definitely want you on every week if we could, but whatever. I know you're a busy guy. But yeah, definitely have you back on as time goes on. Charles?
I just like to say thank you, Doc. It's always a pleasure having you on. And I thank you for sharing what you could. I think it was something that I kind of had a hunch that, that's probably the only way to go. So however they set it up, we'll be looking forward to it. And when you can release it, and all the blessings to you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
You too. Yeah. Safety and health and blessings to all your families. It's going to be good. Take care, guys.
Thank you, Charles. You know, we lost a good friend yesterday, Willie K, and I asked Charlie if we could forego the. I know a lot of people are gonna be pissed off because they there we go. See the flatten the curve. They're all asking for the flatten the curve. But I asked Charlie if he could just sing a real quick verse or a song of Willie K. Guy was a tremendous asset to the state. We lost a good man to cancer, but. I don't know if Charlie's looking for his music or he's pretending like he's not hearing me or.
No, I am.
Okay. So we just kind of wanted to close the thing out with some Willie K music and ask for prayers for his family and his ohana because it must be rough times for them. So Charles.
Yep. You know, this is our brother Willie K. You know, his brother was my classmate at Kamehameha. His dad was the late great Mano Kahaili'i, and there'll never be anybody like Willie again. And he mentored a lot of young musicians, and it's gonna be a tough act to follow. Put it that way. So we're playing a little music behind here because he was the man.
Can hardly hear it, but I think it's Kachi Kachi music, Maka Wow. Okay. Anyway, there we go.
Why don't you tell them our guests for tomorrow night there?
Tomorrow night we'll be back at 7 o'clock. We got Alan Aquino. He's going to be talking to us about the personal financial impact to many of us here in Hawaii. He's going to give us some tools and some resources available for us to help get us through this crisis. And he's a very special gift for those that stay on till the end. He's going to give you guys, everybody's going to get something. So tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Alan Aquino. You see him twice a week on KHON in the morning. He's going to be our guest all the way from Utah. And then on Thursday, we have Kevin Matsunaga from Chiefus Kamakahele. He's the media teacher. He's going to have some kids. We're going to have kids from Chiefus and one from Kamehameha that are going to share with us their experiences of COVID, what it's like to not be able to go to school, and yet they're still working on their media productions while at home. So we're going to hear from kids on Thursday. That's going to be cool. So until tomorrow night, we'll see you guys all. Thanks again, LG and Doc and Friend and all of that. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Love you guys. God bless. Take care.